Richard Butcher, and this is going to be a professional development slideshow about teaching with Siop. Why Siop as professional development? My school has adopted Siop, and we've had 2 professional developments on it. I feel like the professional developments were extremely lacking. Our first Siop training was really boring. It was right at the beginning of the school year, and it was really hard to even understand what it was. I didn't even know what it stood for when we started taking the professional development. So it really was hard to see the value. The second PD we had on it was a lot better, but it wasn't much better. They showed us several videos of classrooms from our district that were supposed to be using Siop, but the video recording was actually broken, and so it was really shaky. You couldn't understand what the people were saying, but the person that was giving the PD just kept talking and kept showing the videos, and one of them was about 10 minutes long, and so it was really rough. So anyway, I really wanted to kind of get a better look at it, so that's why I did this, and it actually really helped my understanding. So hopefully if I was to do this PD, it would do that for other people in my district. What is Siop? Siop is an acronym for Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol. Siop is designed to assist EL students because they're often at a large disadvantage when it comes to taking a test in the English language. If their understanding of the language is low, they end up not being tested over the content of the test, but end up being they end up being tested over their understanding of the English language instead of the content of the test. So this is also very helpful to non-EL students. So Siop is going to go ahead and it's going to give your teachers strategies and techniques for instruction. The video there at the bottom is from the Siop website, and it's just going to kind of cover that a little more. So it's kind of just an overview of what Siop is, which I'll also be covering, but their video is pretty helpful. Alright, the Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol, these are kind of some statistics for its need. So students that are learning English as a second language are the fastest growing segment of school population in the United States. It's kind of a staggering statistic. I know my school has a very large population of Hispanic or Spanish-speaking students. We have quite a large migrant population at my school, so Siop really is beneficial in our district. Number 2, current teachers are not really prepared to educate these students. I know I felt like that. I have a student right now. It's only her second year in the United States. Her English skills are very low. At the beginning of the school year, we actually didn't even have parapros that could speak Spanish in place, so it made it about doubly hard. So it's been kind of a rocky year with her. She's a very nice student, very hardworking, but for example, I gave her her MEP test, and when I read her the question, she asked me if she should answer it in Spanish or English. So and not in that good of English. So it's she doesn't really understand. Alright, continue with our trend for the need for Siop, a little bit more statistics. 89% of Hispanic middle and high school students read below grade level. That's not good. EL students have the highest dropout rates among any demographic, and the No Child Left Behind has actually caused more of these EL students to fail due to the high state tests. My high school actually did not make AYP last year because of a low rate of Hispanic graduation. Now if you want to get into the argument of whether this is the district's fault or not, we don't have all those students the whole time, all this kind of stuff. Doesn't really matter. The government doesn't care, and we're still held accountable to educate these students, which is why one of the reasons we're adopting Siop. Alright, what Siop is supposed to do for students? It's supposed to make the lessons more accessible to English language learners. The verb usage is really what is big and stressed in it. So whenever language objectives or whatever is up on the board, it's always we're using verbs, we're not talking in generalities, that kind of thing. And so the Siop is really going to give your teachers strategies that they use in their classroom to really educate all students better, not just EL students. Obviously, EL students would see the largest gains because of it, but non-EL students also benefit from these strategies. Alright, this training we're going to cover the first 6 features of Siop. In the next few slides we're going to go over each one of these, so I'm not going to read them here, but the training that is going to cover the first 6 features. There's quite a number of features that go throughout the whole book, and they're kind of just the main points of Siop. So you can look at them here, but we're going to go over them over the next 6 slides. Alright, Siop feature 1 is going to be your content objectives clearly defined, displayed, and reviewed with students. This is the one that kind of, it seems kind of obvious, I guess, but oftentimes the objectives and the standards in the classroom are written in such a way that it's very hard for ELs to understand them. This is very true. So when you write objectives, you should always think about if they're measurable, action-oriented, observable, student-friendly, and shared. And so, like I share mine on the board. Siop, it's one of the ones I'm really working on in my classroom. So I have them on the board every day, and then they really need to be. Alright, Siop feature 2 is going to be your language objectives, so clearly defined, displayed, and reviewed to students. So teachers should have language objectives with special care to distinguish between receptive, listening and reading, and productive, which is speaking and writing skills, as these aid in ELs in their understanding. If you watch this video down here, it's teaching strategies. This is from the Siop website. This really I thought it kind of encapsulated the last 2 features pretty well, and it also just talks a little bit about some things. And I found the videos really helpful because even though I covered a lot of stuff about Siop, I don't always know the big picture, and so some of these videos are a little bit more covering the big picture of the thing. So that's feature 2, so your language objectives. Alright, Siop feature 3, so content concepts appropriate for age and educational background. Obviously this is going to be important for any student that you're teaching, but especially for EL students. So when planning content concepts, it's important to consider 5 things. Students' first language literacy. So one thing we run into in my school all the time is we have a high volume of Spanish-speaking students. They get put in a Spanish class and everyone thinks they would excel, but they don't because they never really had any proper education in the Spanish language either. So it's not really any advantage. It's just they understand what's being said sometimes, but they don't. They can't necessarily read it, or they don't. They speak it fine with their friends, but they don't. They know street Spanish or whatever you want to call it. And then so number 2, student second language proficiency. That can be a lot of different levels. So you've got to try to figure out what that is. So number 3, student reading ability. Student reading ability. This can be a lot of things. For example, the student I talked about before that I have in my class, she can read Spanish really well. She can write Spanish. She does pretty well in Spanish, but she is really low in English. And so, for example, when I gave her a MEEP test and I read her writing cue, she actually asked me if she should answer in Spanish or English. And so, obviously, I was like, oh boy. So I'm pretty sure she didn't do so well in her MEEP, but nonetheless, this is something to think about when you're in your classroom every day. And so then number 4, students' cultural and age appropriateness of material, and then reading difficulty of the material assigned. So those last 2 are things you're going to be considering no matter what the student is. So that's feature 3. Alright, this is feature 4, supplementary materials used to a high degree. So when you're dealing with EL students, you've really got to use Alright, this is feature 4, supplementary materials used to a high degree. So when you're dealing with EL students, you've really got to use Alright, Siop feature 5 is the adaptation of content to all levels of student proficiency. This is really just like doing accommodations like you would for any special needs or IEP type student. These are a number of strategies that teachers can use to adapt a reading so that EL students can better understand the text. Doing things like graphic organizers, outlines, highlighted text, native language text, so that you're doing things that are more conveying the information they're supposed to learn, and instead Alright, this is Siop Feature 6. This is meaningful activities that integrate lesson concepts with language practice opportunities. So, language practice is probably one of the more important things that EL students can do. Obviously at home they don't get a chance to practice this, so being at school, they get to practice English, but not necessarily English that's beneficial. So, in the classroom, they get a chance to connect what they're doing to things at home and things around them with proper English usage. That is very important. So that's Siop Feature 6. Alright, this is probably the biggest part, most important part of the PD today, or that we're going to do on that. And so applying Siop to a lesson, the teachers are going to bring a lesson plan with them, and so this is going to be their opportunity to kind of mold it into the lesson plan template that Siop provides. So Siop really just lays it out in the content objectives, lesson objectives, key vocabulary, supplementary materials, and then into the Siop features of the strategies that they teach, and then there's a place for notes and everything. So really this will give the teachers a valuable tool they can take to their classrooms. They can change other lessons into this, but it really makes it easy and makes it a lot easier than trying to recreate all new lessons around the Siop template, around the Siop plan, when really all you need to do is kind of tweak a few things here and there, and most lessons will already be a Siop lesson. So, just a few key word changes and all that. And so, there's also a video here on lesson delivery. This is from Siop, so you can check that out if you want to learn a little bit more about that. Alright, for the last part of our Siop training, we're going to apply Siop to a test. So teachers are going to be asked to bring an assessment or test with them to the PD. And on that, they're going to kind of go at their tables, be at their tables, they'll kind of work through a test, and they'll be simplifying verbs, they'll be rewording questions just to try to make them Alright, the Siop PD, this is going to be the provided materials that I would give to the teachers if I was giving this PD. So, making content comprehensible for English learners, Siop model. This is just the Siop textbook. It's actually pretty good source for checking things out. It has a lot of examples, a lot of things like templates and all that kind of stuff in it. Alright, and that's it. That's the end. That's all we got to talk about Siop today. Thanks for viewing the presentation, and I hope you have a great Christmas break.